So the Buccaneer is meant to be Drake's answer to dealing with fighters. So ships like the Hornet and the Gladius and the Sabre. It's sort of in that class of ships. It's purpose-built just for combat with a bit of a pirate flair to it. So its intention is to be super fast, super maneuverable, but very flimsy, so it can't really take that many hits. So you can see this reflected in Jim Martin's concepts. So you'll notice that the ship has these gigantic engines to emphasize speed. And some of the changes that we're going to be making when we move into the actual full production of the ship is the wings. They have a very particular shape, which we're going to sort of make them a little bit smaller, a little bit sleeker to emphasize speed even more. And we're also going to be placing maneuvering thrusters all around the main engines in order to give it the maneuverability that it needs to basically outmaneuver a lot of the other heavy-hitting ships like the Hornet or the Super Hornet, which are essentially flying tanks. But this one will be a little bit more maneuverable. It just will not be able to take the hits. So with the Buccaneer, you're going to want to get in, do your damage, and try to avoid taking any damage. From a design standpoint, we also wanted the main gimbaled weapon on the belly of the ship to be usable at almost every stage of flight. So this includes having the landing gear deployed. And in its current stage in the concept, the landing gear is sort of blocking the firing arc of the gun on the bottom. So we're going to end up having to redesign the landing gears entirely for a couple of reasons. One, to give the gun the firing arc that it requires, and two, for performance reasons. We're trying really hard to make sure that all the landing gear tucks into the ship, so that way we can call that out in the game, so it's not eating up the resources the entire time in flight. Some of the other changes that we'll be making have to do with the cockpit. So you'll notice in the concept we've got right side entrance into the ship. We're actually flipping that over to the other side, so it'll be standard with all the other fighters where you enter on the left side. And we're also going to be changing a little bit of the shape of the nose to accommodate a fold-out ladder so that players can actually climb in and out without any problems.
To give you guys an idea of what really goes into setting up these ships, we're also going to give you a quick look at what's going on with the Buccaneer in its very early white box stages. So we're really just starting the big production build out on this ship. Artists are wrapping up the Caterpillar and being able to move on to this now. I've been wrapping up work on the Herald, and so now working on to the Buccaneer setup. So a lot of this is still going to be temp or placeholder stuff as we're piecing this ship together, because we have to find out what are its custom animation needs or custom art needs or custom tech design needs before all those pieces can really come together. So what you'll be seeing today has a few oddities. The pilot, it's not using the actual animation template that the final ship will be using. You'll be seeing some fun oddities with the Herald animation, warping somebody through glass. Some of the maneuvering thrusters and the main thrusters are going to look a little bit awkward on the ship, but those are really just so we can take something that we have that works. In this case, the main engines on the Herald. We can just change some of the data, bolt those onto the ship, get something put together, and get something flyable really quick and start tuning it and to find out, okay, is this delivering on the goals that we want? Is this delivering on the gameplay that we want to have? Here we have the current white box on the Drake Buccaneer. So just a few of the quick highlights. We've got its size 1 and size 3 wing mounts. We haven't built out the missile launchers yet. That's going to be a little bit further into the gray box phase. Some wonderfully oversized temp engines on this thing at the moment. You can see that really big back here. A lot of this is just to get the ship up flying as fast as possible. If you notice any of these little dots littered around the ship, these are its maneuvering thrusters. So 24 total maneuvering, and then main and retro for 28 total thrusters on the ship. So let's just go ahead and climb in. The onboard animation for it right now is a bit off, and you'll also sort of see the control panels are a bit broken, but whoop. So some of the other fun oddities of white box, the ladders won't retract just yet. Giant mains, so you can see the fire shoot out of the front of the ship. But then just basic gameplay is what we get in the white box. So all the controls. You can roll, you can pitch, speed up, slow down, anything basic, and then we just start getting the tuning set up from here. So the white box is really just the basic functionality check. So we make sure it can start, it can stop, all its axial control, so roll, pitch, yaw. And then from here we can really start getting the actual gameplay balance, make sure that the thruster counts are just right, the load balance on it's just right.
So one of the challenges if you're using a pre-existing animation template is we have to alter the flight controls to match the animation template. So with the Buccaneer, we're going to be using a center joystick and a left throttle. So in this scene, we have just the rough concept model we got from the concept artist. And what I did is I kit bashed in some existing Drake assets along with some other guiding rails so I could line up the animation. So you can see he's getting in. It's still really rough and there's clipping and not all the parts are animated yet, but we're really just trying to get an idea of whether or not this animation is going to actually work with the ship.
So the concept itself, we're working really hard to make sure that we keep the spirit of the ship in its current iteration concepted out. So it's actually really common that we make tweaks to our designs when we move into production. And the reason why that happens is because the concept artist is focusing on communicating a specific feel to the player. So if it's meant to be a quick maneuverable ship, we want it to look quick and maneuverable. If it's meant to be a big cargo ship, you want it to look big and clunky, like it can't move. But what happens is when we move into production, we end up having to implement some standards for gameplay reasons. So this means, floors have to be a specific height, ladders have to be a specific height in terms of the rungs, the seats need to be a very specific way to accommodate for our characters. And that means we end up having to make tweaks to the concept to basically nudge it in the right direction to get it to fit properly. The changes that we make usually aren't big sweeping changes where we completely redesign the ship. It's just to make sure that it works properly with our game systems. So when this whole process is done, you'll be able to get your hands on an awesome ship, the Buccaneer, which is really meant to be the pirates' answer to the military ships. So we're talking about going against the Avengers, the Hornets. This is Drake's answer to that problem, the pesky law getting in your way.